just a little bit more help needed. Steve needs some help in the fellowship hall after church to load up all the goodies that we packed up last week. So if you can help, please meet him down in the fellowship hall. A couple more announcements. We have Joyce Myers who will tell us a little bit about Meet the Pastor Night.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we today? Good. Okay, so my name is Joyce Myers. I represent the Staff Parish Committee here at Groveport, and we will be hosting various Meet Pastor sessions. You may have seen an email on this. I just want to reiterate that so no one misses out on this. We encourage everyone to sign up for a session, and if you remember when Pastor Chip was here, when he started, we did this, and it was a great way to get to know him and get to know him to get to know us. And we have small sessions with a group of about 10 people, and last about 2 hours. And so it was a really good opportunity to get to know him. And we want to do that with Pastor Jonathan and his family as well. So that's what we're doing. And each session will include a host from Staff Parish and a note taker. And we will provide refreshments, and we will take notes on the discussion. And we would ask you to pay close attention to the location. A lot of the sessions are going to be at the parsonage, and that's for the ease of the pastor and his family with the twins. So we would just ask you to make sure that if you sign up, that you know, pay attention to where you're going and the time frame there. And let's see, what else do I need to tell you? There will be a separate gummy session, a separate session just for gummy, and we will not have childcare for these sessions, so just know that. And also, if by chance there aren't enough people signed up, if we don't have at least 6 people, we will probably cancel the session and reschedule. So when you sign up, make sure that you put your phone number on the sign-up sheet, and just let us know so that we can call you, because we will contact you if that happens, okay? And I think Jennifer Hurdle, did the sign-up genius for us and set everything up, and I just thank Jennifer Hurdle for that. It was a wonderful thing that she did, and makes it a lot easier for all of us. So today, we will have a representative from Staff Parish in the back, and that will be right after service, and actually she's back there right now. But it will be after service. If you could stop by, if you haven't signed up, and you want to sign up, and you don't want to do it at home, she'll be happy to help you with that back there, okay? And we just want to thank you for this great opportunity that we have here. Thank you for participating and with the sessions, and thank you for your time.
Last but not least, we have Ron Lee with Men's Group.
Thank you, Beth. Next Sunday, the Men's Methodist group is organizing a day at the park. We're going to go to Huntington and watch the Clippers game. There's been announcements in the bulletin. It's actually Family Day, so 6 members of the family, up to $15 for general admission. Tickets are $3. If you're a senior citizen, it's $2. You can buy your tickets at the stadium. We all congregate. We meet in the general admissions bleachers, section 21, 22, and 23. We'll have somebody there. You'll see us. What we would like for you is those who want to share rides, meet at the church at 3 o'clock. We'll congregate here at the church, and those that want to get together and ride with somebody to help out with getting there, we appreciate it. But if you're willing to, and you have some seats in your car, stop by the church at 3 and see if there's someone here who would like to go. And it's a nice day to watch a game. We've done this the last 3 years, and it's enjoyable. So it's next Sunday, 4:10 is the game. If you want to ride around with somebody or with somebody, meet at the church at 3. We're in the general admission sections, 21, 22, and 23, and you'll see us there. If you have any questions, come see me, or give me a call if you need any additional assistance. Thank you.
Now let's quiet our hearts as we prepare for worship. Playing a challenging dual role today, so please stand as we sing our opening.
And before we start, I wanted to say something really quickly. The child that's going to school on Saturday is me, if you couldn't tell. But I wanted to thank everybody here for getting me there. I wouldn't be able to do it without you all.
Oh, don't do this.
But you guys mean a lot to me, whether from seeing me stand here at 3 years old trying to say twins from a little star, or about to go to college. I appreciate you all. Thank you. I was like, I promise.
Now let's sing our opening. Try. call to worship. Sing praises to the Lord who dwells in Zion.
Among the peoples God sees.
The Lord who avenges blood is mindful of them.
And do not forget and cry and be afflicted.
Be gracious to me, O Lord. See what I suffer from those who hate me.
You are the one who lifts me up from the gates of death, that I may recount all your graces, and in the gates of the daughter of Zion, rejoice in your deliverance.
Please join me in the opening prayer.
O great and mighty God, by the power of your hand, we have been delivered from slavery. Sin and death no longer hold power over us. Jesus is our great deliverer and our Passover Lamb. As we worship you today, instill in us a wonder for your work. Teach us and mold us into your image. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
You may be seated. Well, no one warned me that you guys are going to do a test on the pastor today if I had rhythm or not. Or the shine Jesus shine. I think I got about the third time. Those clap things. I didn't know you guys had rhythm, but don't take that. That's okay. I wasn't expecting that here today, so thank you for sharing. As we're here today, welcome. Again, to all those that are here with us, and especially our first-time visitors, we want to welcome you to our worship service here today. In just a minute, we're going to be taking a time for prayer. We do that a little differently than maybe you're used to. First of all, there are these little connection cards, and on them they have opportunity to put your prayer request. In just a few moments, there's going to be some ushers coming around to pick these up. And so if you have a prayer request, please put those on here. Those are going to be coming to the altar, and we pray over those. You'll also see in your bulletin printed our prayer request for the week. If you want to add, here this morning, we had a request from Pam Aldrich for her friend Jody, who's just having some trouble breathing and is going to the hospital here today, so we want to add her. I know you will faithfully lift her up in prayer along with our other prayer requests that are listed there. Of course, we always pray for those that are serving in the military, and those also in extended care that are listed there, as well as our praises. So, you may have to pray for the corals here this morning. You guys are keeping it together as well. Those are our prayer requests. Also, let you know for our visitors that we also spend some time in prayer. There's going to be a song that plays, and during that song, the altar rails are open. And so, if anybody wants to, you're welcome to come down, spend some time kneeling and praying. Our church is also a praying church, as I mentioned, so they'll probably come up behind you and lay hands on you and pray for you as well. And just know that that's just a sign of their love for you and a sign of them praying for you and being behind you. So know that this is available here as we pray together. So with all that being said, let's now enter into God's presence through prayer.
Reach out.
before we ever wake up. You set the path of the day before us and protect us from evil. So as we're here today, Lord, we thank you. We praise you. Lord, for many of us that are gathered here today, we are going through life's troubles. We take heart here today because we know that you, Lord, lived on this earth. You experienced flesh and blood. You were around the sick and the hurting. You saw broken families and broken relationships. You saw hardened hearts and cruel hearts. And you lived among us. And you experienced all that we experience. And so, Lord, as we come here today, not only do we celebrate your lordship in our life, but we celebrate that you understand what we go through. So as we take this time to come to you, to lay our request before you, to admit, Lord, that on our own power we are a broken people, we are a hurting people, and that we're people, Lord, that need your life in them. God, we take great comfort in the fact that you understand what we're going through. And that, Lord, with your power, you're quick to come to our aid. So, Lord, as we gather together, we lift up the prayers of this church. We especially lift up those that are coming to seek your special touch. May you bless them. The power of your Holy Spirit, receive all sorts of blessings from your hand. Lord, for those that are hurting, going through physical pain, may you bring wellness to them. Prove to us once again, Lord, that you are the great healer. To remind us, Lord, that if you can care for our bodies, you can surely care for our souls. As we're here today, Lord, we lift up those in service, our first responders, and also, Lord, those serving in military service or other capacities of putting their life on the line for others. May you protect them and guide them, bring them safely home to their families this evening. May you work through them to bring peace in our world. God, for the affairs of our nation, the affairs of this world, the conflicts that are constantly going on, help us all to make and be peacemakers. For those, Lord, that are here today searching for work, searching for something to do with their hands, may you provide them with opportunities, Lord, to do the work that you've called them to do, that you've uniquely gifted them to do. Only that it would provide for their families, but Lord, it would be a joy each and every day to go to work. Lord, for those here that are just among relationships that are broken, or are grieving the loss of loved ones, or maybe even someone close to them who's not far away. May, Lord, you bless those hearts. Give them strength in these days. May you open up just your love and pour it out to them. For all of our other prayer requests that we lift up every single week, Lord, we give those to you now. And we continue to pray for those that are brought here new afresh today. May you bless each and every heart that's represented by these prayers. That, Lord, we can all know that we've met with you today, that you've heard our prayer. And that whether you say yes, no, or not yet, you make our hearts at peace and trusting in you. So God, as we're here today, we pray that same prayer you taught your disciples all those years ago. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Do not eat it with bread made with yeast, but for 7 days eat unleavened bread, and the bread of affliction, because you left Egypt in haste, so that all the days of your life you may remember the time of your departure from Egypt. Let no yeast be found in your possession in all of the land for 7 days. Do not let any of the meat you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain until morning. You must not sacrifice the Passover in any town the Lord your God gives you, except in the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you must sacrifice the Passover in the evening, when the sun goes down on the anniversary of your departure from Egypt. Roast it and eat it at the place the Lord your God will choose. Then in the morning return to your tents. For 6 days eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day hold an assembly to the Lord your God and do no work.
Well, good morning again. I'm still here. So if you don't know, if you're visiting with us, I'm new to this church as well. I've been 7 weeks now. Actually it came up already. Okay, that's okay. So if you're visiting with us, we're also starting a new sermon series here this week. Now, pretend like you don't see that right now. It's just not there. So this week I had the fun, last couple weeks, I had the fun deal of working with Adobe Photoshop for the first time in my life. And I spent way too many hours making this slide. So we're going to pretend like it's not up there right now, but what we're going to do is just a second, I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. They're going to pretend like it just popped up, and everybody here is going to go, ooh, they're going to get an audible, like, wow, that's awesome, right? 1, 2, 3. So thank you for that, because I spent way too much time trying to figure out how to make name is Pastor Jonathan. I'm the pastor here, called Festivus for the Rest of Us. And some of you are snipping underneath your breath because you know where that comes from. Who can tell me real quick? Seinfeld. Comes from Seinfeld. All right, we got a couple Seinfeld friends in here. That's right. If you don't remember Seinfeld, it was that comedy show, sitcom, really big in the late 90s kind of era, into that era, 2000s a little bit too. But it was a show, and the whole premise of the show was this. You had all these characters with very zany ideas, very like big personalities, and they always did the thing you wanted to do, but it was like not socially acceptable. And then basically it would play out in all these funny scenarios, and the whole thing was a situational humor kind of funny thing that would happen. And this sermon title, Festivus for the Rest of Us, you may have heard that before. That's because in one episode, there's a character named George Costanza, and George is the bald-headed kind of guy, you're short and kind of a little bigger, and always doing the funny stuff. And his dad comes in for Christmas kind of era time, and his dad has decided Christmas is too commercialized. And as Christians, we've been saying that probably for I don't know how many years now, right? But the solution was not to go back to Jesus, right? Like we Christians often say. The solution was, let's commercialize Christmas altogether and make it a holiday. We'll call it Festivus. And the whole slogan was Festivus for the rest of us. And so you didn't put a tree up in your house. You put an aluminum pole, undecorated, just an aluminum pole. And instead of at the family table sharing stories and memories, it was the airing of grievances, where you told everybody what was wrong with them and what you were mad about with them. And then there were feats of strength, where basically it was, the dad and everybody would embarrass George and wrestle him to the ground, and that was kind of the gig. And so George, of course, hated the festival, but it was something that they were trying to catch on, and one of the characters, of course, chimes in, and they're trying to spread Festivus cheer and spread it to everybody else. Now, what's funny is, if you listen to sports talk radio here in Columbus, the airing of grievances happens every week. That's right. If you ever heard of Common Man and T-Bone, which I don't know, you can take this little soundbite out and send it to Common Man and T-Bone and say, you were mentioned in a sermon here this week. But they're actually doing airing of grievances, and honestly, it's one of the most entertaining hours, or not hour, but like entertaining parts on radio throughout the whole week, because people call in. And the best part is when they call in, they'll sometimes complain about Common Man and T-Bone, the hosts. And their theory is whenever they complain, you have to just take it. You can't argue. You can't argue the point. You can't prove them wrong. You can't do that. You just have to take it. And so these callers will call in, and they'll start airing their grievances about the show host. And one will, they'll just start getting mad, and the other will look at this and just take it. Just take it. And they're like, that's right. Take it, right? And so this is one of the most comical parts of the whole deal. But Festivus is alive and well. You can actually get online, and there's Festivus for the Rest of us sites and things that you can buy an aluminum pole, tree, and all these type of things for your holiday. But it was an interesting concept, right? To think about holidays that sometimes lose their meaning. And of course, as Christmas, we understand how it can easily lose its meaning from Christ coming to this earth and things like that. But sometimes festivals and things like that kind of lose their meaning, don't they? And it's good to go back and reclaim their meaning, not in the way of making up an aluminum pole, but actually go with, like, for instance, Christmas being all about presents and kids opening them, to actually encountering Jesus Christ. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to sit there and ask the question, in the Old Testament, there were all these festivals. There's lots of them. I'm going to point them out here in just a minute, but, what are some of the meaning of these festivals? We really kind of lost that. A lot of times we think of the Old Testament as sort of this book that exists back there. But in so many ways, it's important to us, even here today. And so this sermon series is all about Festivus for the rest of us. We're going to look at some of the ancient festivals of ancient Israel, and actually asking, well, how are they important for us today? Do they still have meaning for us today? And for those that are joining with us online and going to watch this video at home, we want to welcome you again to this part of the service and being with us. And the first one we want to look at here today, we read it, but I want to show it with you. If you have your Bible, I want you to turn to Leviticus. And Leviticus specifically chapter 23. And in this chapter 23, there's going to be listed 7 big holy days for the whole entire ancient Israel to have a festival and come together. And now if you're counting, you're going to have to count kind of weird, because there's 7, and that's a holy number. They always wanted to have 7. But if you count, you might get 8, because the first one is the Sabbath. They want to include. So I just want to run through these just real quick. You had the Sabbath day, which was every week, every Saturday, really, for the ancient Hebrew people. And from sundown on Friday to all of a sudden sundown on Saturday was a day of rest. And so they celebrated that week after week. The second one was what we're going to talk about today, the Passover. And closely linked with that is the celebration of unleavened bread. And then you get the first fruits, a holy day. You get the Feast of Weeks, sometimes called different things, but one of those words is Pentecost, actually, kind of fun for us to think about as Christians. Then there's the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And if you're here today and you go, I know what each one of those is, congratulations, you get a cookie, right? And you should come up and preach this sermon, because I had to look a bunch of these up this week, you didn't know I was my training, but it was, interesting to think about these. But there's 7 listed. Now, I didn't want to do a 7-week sermon on this, so what we did instead was, if you turn to Deuteronomy chapter 16, what we read here today, there's 3 specifically called out and reminded of the people to say, hey, remember these days. And it's real interesting, the 3 that are chosen. And if you look at ancient Israel and what ended up becoming, the Israelites later, and even the nation state, and even today, some of these holy days are still huge holy days for the Jewish people and what they mean in the context of what it is. So I thought it'd be interesting to go back and ask ourselves, let's look at some of these, and let's see if we can pull out some meaning through these. Now, this first one you're very familiar with if you've been in church for a long time. And it's going to sound eerily familiar to maybe a night when Jesus was with his disciples before his death. And there's a specific reason for that, isn't there? But this first one is Passover. And you really can't just say Passover, because immediately Passover was one night, and immediately after it ended, the next holy day kind of started. And so really they're almost one and the same, even though they count them as 2. But there's Passover, and really with that there's the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so what the Passover was this. You remember Israelites and Moses, remember the whole "Let my people go." That's as deep as I can go right now. I'm working on it. We're gonna, a little Charlton Heston kind of go on here. But you remember the Passover in ancient Egypt was this idea. There was the 10 plagues that Israel had been captured by basically Egyptians, put to slavery for years and years and years. They cried out to the Lord. And then finally the Lord called Moses, sent Moses, comes down and has a battle with Pharaoh, basically. God and Pharaoh duke it out. And 10 plagues, we call them plagues, but really think of them as like stripes, is what the word really means. It kind of has this idea of like slapping someone in the face. And so you get this duel between God and Pharaoh, is really what's going on. And God slaps Pharaoh 10 times. And this last 10th one was this heartbreaking one. It's the one it's more or less than a slap. It's more like the punch to the face, knock you out, drag out, we're going to end this fight now kind of slap, strike, if you will. And so this last one that happens before Pharaoh finally says, fine, take your people, Moses, and get out of here, was this evening of the Passover. And what it was God had told Moses, he said, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to get together everybody in their home. I want you to roast a lamb. It was very specific thing. You can't boil it, you can't do that. You have to actually roast it over a fire. And you have to come together. Anybody that can't afford it, come together with other people that can. You're going to take the blood, some of it, put it on your doorpost on the top. And then I want you to do things like, I want you to put your staff in your hand. I want you to put your cloak, tuck it in your belt, get ready as if you're ready to go on a journey. I want you to get ready, eat this meal like that. Eat some bitter herbs with it and bread without yeast. And he said, because I'm going to pass over. And what that word means is spare. I'm going to spare you. And that night, the angel of the Lord comes, and we know the story, right, where it strikes down the firstborn of all of Egypt. They wake up in the morning, and there's crying and mourning. And even Pharaoh's own son is dead. And finally, their hearts are so broken, they tell the Israelites, take our stuff, take our gold, just get out of here, get going. We've had enough of your God. We can't take it anymore. And so God had passed over, and he said, hey, I want you to remember this day. And so every year, on the beginning of their year, we actually, it comes in Easter time for us. It's always moves because they did a lunar cycle, so it wasn't our year. We know it was based off the moon, and so lunar cycles are different than the solar year. So it kind of moves around a little bit. But March, April of every year, you're going to eat this meal. It's the beginning of your year, pretty much. And I want you to remember this day in the story. That's what the Passover is. And immediately afterwards, because you had to leave, because I spared you and your children, and immediately I want you to eat this Feast of Unleavened Bread for a while, like a week or so, and I want you to eat it because you had to leave Egypt in such haste. My power had been so great, they sent you out, and they said, get rid of us. You didn't even have time to bake the bread properly. Because the yeast had to have time to rise, and you didn't even have time. You had to just quickly put it on the fire, grab it, and go. So remember this act of what I've done. Now, it's interesting because if you look at Israel, how they celebrate it, first it was celebrated in tents and stuff as they're traveling through the wilderness. The very first one was, of course, celebrated in Egypt in the home. Then it's in tents as they go all across the wilderness. When they finally settle Canaan, it becomes a pilgrim festival. They start actually, instead of celebrating their own homes, they go up to Jerusalem and celebrate it there. There's a whole sacrifice of the lamb at the temple and symbolic things that happen. But by Jesus' time, it had once again become in the house. And it was a communal meal. You not just your own house, but people around you invited them to come, and you kind of had a celebration in your own home. There were still parts of it that happened in the temple until the temple was destroyed. And Passover became again a household dinner. And so every year you would gather your family around, kind of like we do at Thanksgiving, and you would celebrate this meal together. And every time you celebrate, if you really think about what it means, it was the identity of the Jewish people, the Israelites, who God had called them to be. And on that night, something was slain. On the night, something was spared. And on that night, God's strength was the thing that made it happen. If you're a people and your story is we were enslaved once in our life, you become a nation and a people, you can't really do the same because you know how it feels to other people, can you? It's part of who you are. If you were a people that had been free, you got to do the same for other people, don't you? Because you know what it means to be enslaved. You know what it means to be set free. You see how God was grooming the Israelites to be the light to the nations, to be a different nation than everybody else. If you're a people that have a great God, you share that God, don't you? With the other people in the world. And so this is the identity. And if you think about the Jewish people and throughout history and all the heartache and all the stuff that's happened to them, there's still Jewish people here today. I mean, if there's not a testimony that God exists, that's one right there, right? There's no way this people group should exist, and yet they thrive and still do today. And part of it is because they remember who they were. They never got assimilated into other cultures. Well, part of it did, actually, but for the most part, they still exist today because they were never assimilated into other cultures. They remember who God was. And historians often credit the Passover meal, the celebration of the Passover meal, as the most instrumental part of that. There's several things that was unique to the Jewish people that was very important. The Passover meal celebration reminded them who they were and whose God they belonged to. And reminded them whose God is the powerful one that's going to send them forward. When Jesus, the night before he was betrayed, we're going to celebrate communion here today. On the night before he was betrayed, it was the evening, and scholars can debate this because you can read the Gospels a couple ways, but it was either the actual Passover meal celebrated that night, or Jesus patterned it exactly after the Passover meal. You can read books, and this is one of those where pastors get to read pages and pages and pages about this. People disagree, but nonetheless, it's a fact. Everybody agrees on this. When Jesus ate this meal with his disciples, it was specifically designed to be like the Passover. So if you think about the meaning of Passover for us, it's pretty powerful. Every first and second Sunday, we take communion together, and we remember, just like the Israelites do, that something was slain, something was spared, and that was God's power. And so when we come also as a people that were once enslaved, that have been set free. We come also as a people who were, again, set free, not only from literal chains, but from sin and slavery and death. We also come as a people. It wasn't on our own power, but it was God's great power that did it. And so when we come and celebrate communion, it has all these elements. It's like that you celebrate the Old Testament and the New Testament all together here in celebration of what Christ has done and reinterpreted this Passover meal. It's like, here's how I want you to understand what I'm doing. Here's what I want you to understand. You're being spared. You're being set free. I'm paying the cost for you. I'm the thing that's dying, his blood being poured out. I'm the bread that you're going to have to take with you that's being broken. But I want you to do this. I want you to remember. So every first and second Sunday, we don't just come to eat a little bread, drink a little juice. We come to remember who we are and who's God, or whose we are and who God. I can't say it right. We come to remember that God is our God, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that way too poetic there. Sorry about that. We're trying to remember that God is our God, and how good that God is. And so let us remember here today. Lord, as we come to your table prepared to come, we remember on that night when you loved your disciples, that you sat at that table and you took that Passover meal that had been celebrated for ages and ages and ages, and you reinterpreted it, not only for your disciples to understand, but for us even here today to remember. Lord, we thank you, how you, Lord, speak to us, how you show us the way. We thank you, Lord, that you've not abandoned us, and it's through your power that you bless us. And so, Lord, as we come here today, we remember how on that night you broke bread, you gave it to your disciples and said, "Take, this is my body which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And when the supper was over, you took the cup, you gave thanks to God, and you gave it to your disciples and said, "Drink this, my cup of the new covenant, poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. As often as you drink it, do this in remembrance of me." So, Lord, in remembrance of these, your mighty acts, we thank you, Lord. And we pray that you make these be the body and blood for us, that we may be the body and blood of Christ for the world. Lord, before we come to your table, we remember it's not of our own accord. Before we come to the table, when we take time to confess our sin before you. So, congregation, if you would simply, in silence, spend some time with the Lord, confessing our sin. In the name of Jesus Christ, we are forgiven. And may we not only remember this mighty night when you did big acts of remembrance here, Lord, but may we also in our own life remember how you've touched each of our lives, and you've called us out of slavery, and you've called us to be free, and how you've done it with your own power. And so, Lord, not only through this meal, but through our own lives, we recall how you've done that time and time again. Thank you, Lord. We praise you and offer ourselves as sacrifices to you. May we be holy as you are holy, and may we be your people. We pray all this through the power and blood of Jesus Christ. Amen. In just a moment, I'm going to ask the communion stewards to come forward and help with the communion. Just know that if you're not a member of our church, you don't have to be a member of this church, that is. You don't have to be a member of this denomination to partake in communion here today. We're actually going to be having a couple stations where people can come down. You can take a piece of the bread, you can dip it in the cup, and this is open to anybody who wants to receive Jesus Christ here today. You don't have to be part of this church, you don't have to be a member of this denomination, it's open to you. Also, we do have a gluten-free element as far as the bread, if you need that here today. Just kind of give us a nod as you come up, I'll bring it to you, and we also have a different cup for you to use here today to make sure that you are taken care of as well. So if that's needed, will the stewards now come forward to be prepared? The table is prepared. Will you come? lot to all of us to see you grow up. Of course, I'm only catching the tail end of this, but for everybody here. And so, since you're going off to school, I just want to invite somebody else going off to school. If you are, if you come down, we're going to say a quick prayer for you. And then I know the congregation wanted to have a chance to come up and greet you and tell you all the warm wishes. So if you're not, come on down. So Zoe as well, so come on up. We're going to pray for you both. Just a minute. Lord, may you bless these two. That everything that they do will be blessed. That, Lord, they would go to school, meet new friends, that they would have a great time. And that, Lord, as they go, may you keep them safe. May you show them a path for them. That they could do something with their hands, Lord, that would make them happy. That they could do something with their lives that would have eternal meaning to those that they would bless. And so, Lord, protect them and guide them until we see them again. And may they always know of our love for their life. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Now let's go with this minute.
I haven't heard anyone else make this announcement, so I'd like to say something about a big praise for our church.
Okay.
And part of our family, and our friends Stan and Gail, Dylan, who became grandparents 3 times in one day.
They did, yeah. Yeah, let's celebrate that too. And now let's do this benediction. May the Lord who sets free, and may the Lord who actually takes people out of bondage and makes them into new people, a people who are blessed. May that God bless us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.